Welcome to episode 649 of the Entertainment 2.0 podcast, brought to you by thedigitalmediazone.com. I'm Josh Pollard, and this is the show that puts you in control of your favorite movies, music, shows, and games. Well, it's a solo episode this week. Last week was crazy with travel and holidays and all of that, and now Richard is traveling, so you've just got me this week to cover a whole lot of news. Fortunately, I guess for the length of the show, but less for the entertainment value of the show. No real feedback to cover. We did get a lot of YouTube comments on our video about the new Sonos Ace headphones, where almost everybody except for maybe one commenter agreed that these don't really make a lot of sense. So basically agreeing with our take on those headphones also. One person, they saw some of the unique things that Sonos is providing their users, and I guess we'll just have to disagree on the fact that the few benefits that you get out of them do not outweigh all of the negatives of those new headphones. So let's jump into the news this week. And as usual, we're going to start with some video news, a couple of quick stories around pricing. So we'll start with the good news before we jump into the bad news. The good news story is if you're interested in Peacock Premium, then you can get a pretty nice deal on it if you're a new subscriber. You can get a 1-year subscription for only $20. And if you're not sure what you want to watch on Peacock, well, reminder that Peacock is NBC's streaming service, so a huge library of NBC TV and some movies, but also some big things for sports. The biggest one, of course, being that the Olympics start in July, and Peacock is the home for Olympics coverage in the US. In the fall, you'll be able to watch Sunday night football games on Peacock. And I don't know if wrestling season ever really starts or ends, but they also are known for having WWE premium events. That and a whole lot more. They do have some motorsports and things like that too, and some other sports if you're interested. So how good of a deal is this? Well, this is on the ad-supported tier, but as we reported on, I think, last episode, the price of Peacock is about to go up in July. So the tier that you're getting with this deal starting next month will cost $8 a month, and you're going to get a year of it for $20. Again, it's the ad-supported version, but it's a whole year for a little less than 2.5 months basically worth of service. So you've got all month of June to take a hold of this deal. I might just go ahead and jump on this. Peacock is not something I need to watch a lot of, but I'll be subscribing anyway for the Olympics. So I guess for a lot of people, this will come down to, do you just want to have access to it for a year and deal with the ads? Or are you really only interested in the Olympics and you'd rather have the ad-free option for the Olympics? So those are your two options there, but there you go. A year of Peacock Premium for only $20. So that was the good news. What about the bad news? Well, in what is only our first story about price increases this week, Max is raising their subscription price yet again. At least if you're paying for the ad-free option. So if you're not watching commercials and you're watching Max, then the ad-free plan is increasing by $1 a month to $16.99 a month. And if you've got the top of the line offering from Max, so ad-free with 4K, that is also increasing, and that will be $20.99 a month. Fortunately, if you are just paying for the low-cost 1080p limited ad-supported plan, that stays at $9.99 a month, which is a little unusual. Normally when we're seeing price increases, the prices increase across the board on all tiers, maybe not always the same amount per tier, but they pretty much always increase everything. Maybe Netflix is the one exception that I can think of to that rule, but this is a little bit unique, and it does make me wonder, do they just not need to increase the cost on the ad-supported plan because maybe they're actually making pretty significant revenue on the ads to make up for it? I'm not sure. That's the only real reason that I can think of, but I think everyone would expect this price to increase. So unless they're really just trying to make sure they can stay under $10 a month by a penny for as long as possible, that's really the only other reason that I can think of for keeping the ad-supported plan steady at $9.99 a month. But if you're paying for that 4K or you're paying for that ad-free, it is going up. And that's starting now. If you're subscribing now, you're going to pay this new rate. If you're if you go and subscribe right now, if you're already a current subscriber, then you will see this new pricing on your next bill. So let's stick with the price increase stories as we switch over to our audio news segment. And this one unfortunately hits me. It's Spotify. They're raising their prices again. They just did this, I think less than a year ago. I believe it was last fall, but not that long ago. So, and this one's not great. So Spotify Premium, this is the single account. This is going up by $1 to $11.99 a month. That now makes it $1 more expensive than all of its major competitors, Apple, Amazon, all of those guys. The Duo plan, this is 2 subscriptions, 2 separate accounts, goes up by $2 to $16.99 a month. And the family plan goes up $3 to $19.99 a month. So I understand prices need to increase and things like that, but this feels like it's going up a lot for me as a family plan subscriber. And the biggest frustration is it feels like it's increasing without really getting much out of it. We've talked recently about them adding the audiobook catalog, but now I'd have to go back and see when that launched, if it was more in line with around the time of the previous price increase. But the bigger frustration here is that it's going up yet again, but we still don't have Hi-Fi. Spotify Hi-Fi announced years ago, we still don't have it, and all of the competing services, the major competing services, which have not increased their prices this year, do have lossless audio playback, and Spotify still doesn't. This kind of blows up my prediction. My prediction earlier this year was that we would see another Spotify price increase when they announced Spotify Hi-Fi. I was wrong on every front on that one, I suppose. Well, sticking with Spotify, they made some other people angry too. So we reported a couple of years ago that Spotify had launched a new device. Yep, a device called the Car Thing. And the idea was that this was a device that would connect to your car audio and then also via Bluetooth to your phone and would allow you to easily control Spotify safely in your car while driving. It's an interesting idea, but I never really saw the point of it. Even as a big-time Spotify user, I would rather just use my phone. So it apparently didn't sell well, although they never announced actual numbers for it. And they ended up discontinuing it in the same year that they launched it, which was 2022. And then they announced that the Car Thing will be completely discontinued and no longer functional after December 9th of 2024. So it still works right now. You've got roughly until the end of the year for these things to work. But there were a lot of disgruntled users out there. People paid up to $90 for this device, and it's only going to work for a couple of years before being bricked by the company. Not cool. So, as you would expect, a class action lawsuit was filed. And, well, there's been no official announcement. Well, there has been an official announcement from Spotify that, it's discontinued and you should talk to customer support if you have questions. What it sounds like is happening, according to TechCrunch, is if you do contact support and can show that you did actually purchase one of these, that Spotify is issuing full refunds for the purchase of your Spotify car thing. That seems like them trying to get out of this class action lawsuit, and it's probably a smart idea. On to our gaming news for the week. And the biggest news by far, kind of blowing up the gaming industry this week, is that Asus announced an update, a refresh perhaps, to the Asus ROG Ally, which is the Asus competitor to the Steam Deck. It is a portable Windows-powered PC gaming platform. Think Nintendo Switch, but it runs Windows. That's what the ROG Ally is, and it's definitely been the top competitor to the Steam Deck. But it hasn't been without issues, and Asus is attempting to remedy some of those with a new device. It's now official. It's been rumored for a few weeks now, but it's now official. The important thing here, this is not an Ally 2. They're calling it the ROG Ally X. It's got a lot of updates, but not everything. So it's not really a sequel to the Ally. It's an update. So what are you getting with this new device? Well, you're getting literally double the battery life, double the storage, 50% more memory, technically doubling of USB-C ports, but the new USB-C port now supports Thunderbolt 4, which greatly increases your options for docking and other peripherals that you could connect to this. It's also only increasing in weight by a little bit, despite the fact that the battery is significantly bigger, because they are decreasing the weight of many other components within this. So more battery, more memory, more storage, that's all great. One thing that's not changing though is the processor. So while you're getting more memory and it's actually faster memory than the original ROG Ally, you're not going to get significantly better performance. You're looking at tops about a 15% performance boost. But maybe that's fine considering it's twice the battery life and storage and at least somewhat better given that it's got more memory inside of it. So all of that sounds really good. It is more expensive though. It is a $799 device. And the other thing that doesn't change is the screen. The screen is good. It's a high refresh rate 7-inch screen, but it's not OLED like the Steam Deck, which has an OLED screen. So definitely some updates, but not across the board, which is why you should not consider this a sequel or a new version. It is more of an upgrade or a refresh. It does sound like the device to get if you are considering Steam Deck competitors, or maybe even if you are considering a Steam Deck, but you really want something that is Windows-based, even though most people will tell you Windows does hold some of these devices back in some ways, primarily on the performance front, because Windows consumes more resources than the operating system that Steam Deck is running on, but it does offer you some other possibilities that the Steam Deck doesn't. So you win some, you lose some in that case. Very curious if any of you are interested in the ROG Ally X. It does look like a really, really nice portable gaming PC. Next up, a quick update. We announced a few months ago that Sony had started investigating built-in support for users who have purchased the PlayStation VR 2 and maybe want to use it on their PC. They did look into it, they did work on it, and now they are officially releasing a PC connector. This connector will launch and be available on August 7th, so only a couple of months away for you to be able to get that. The disappointing thing here, though, is that this connector is $60. And that's on top of the $600 that you probably paid for the PSVR 2 hardware on its own. So now it is a $660 VR headset that now works with PlayStation 5 and PC. But that, if you are a PC gamer and you've been a little frustrated by the lack of PlayStation VR titles that have been made available since this device launched, well, this is a good option for you because it'll basically support any Steam VR games that you could play, including Half-Life Alyx and any of the other big name PC VR games. You'll be able to play them with PSVR 2 hardware. So that's good news. Maybe it's $60 well spent if you still really want to play VR games, but you're disappointed that it seems like Sony is barely putting any effort into VR games on their console. Maybe this is your next best option, but that's only true if you've got a really powerful gaming PC. So again, we'll be very curious to see how the rest of the market responds to this, whether this sells well, or if people just continue to get frustrated with Sony by their lack of real support for this device. Our last gaming story for the week, it's an interesting one out of NVIDIA. Unsurprisingly, they are working on some new AI features using their amazing NVIDIA RTX graphics cards. This new technology is called G-Assist. And don't get this confused with the April Fool's prank from a couple of years ago that they called G-Assist. This is a real feature coming to PCs soon. And it's an AI-based assistant that can help in two ways. The first is to optimize game settings for your PC. You can ask it to maximize the video quality settings and things like that. And it will look at the specs of your PC and the card that you have and the game that you're playing, and then can optimize game settings based on what you're trying to get out of your game. That sounds pretty cool because while some people love tweaking the settings like crazy on PC games, not everybody does. And so if you can have an AI assistant do all that work for you, sounds great. The other thing that G-Assist can do is to give you help while you are playing games. The example that they laid out was playing Ark, whatever the latest Ark game is, which is a survival crafting game, sort of like Minecraft, but dinosaurs and way better graphics, that sort of thing. And in their video, the person playing asked G-Assist, what's the next early game weapon? And where do I find crafting materials for it? And it uses a large language model and a large database of gaming information and can tell you what the next best weapon is and how you would craft it and things like that. And this idea sounds really nice. Like, how many of us are playing games and regularly Googling questions about the game that we're playing? And to have that right on screen while you're playing, basically a little chat window open on top of your game that is context aware of what is going on in your game is kind of cool. It's more than kind of cool. It's really cool. It's not the most original thing. Microsoft literally just showed off a similar feature with their Copilot technology inside of Minecraft, so it's even the same type of game, and they showed this a couple of weeks ago. So not completely original, but a really compelling use case for AI inside of gaming. I have one major concern about all of this, though. What about internet publishers? What about the websites out there that are creating like giant guides for these games and FAQs and things like that, where when you would normally go to your web browser on your phone or PC or whatever and go to Google and search for these things, you would end up at a website written by people who are making money from the website that they created and are probably making money by you just landing at the site and seeing ads, or maybe clicking ads, or maybe subscribing to the website. Basically just in some way, whether directly or indirectly, paying the people who are coming up with the answers to your questions. If you are just asking this assistant in-game and it's just scraping those answers from the web and then giving them back to you, well, you're kind of getting those for free, which means that you're not really helping out the people who put the work in to get you that information. And obviously, I'm a little bit biased here. The Digital Media Zone is a website created by people like Richard and me to give you information, but we only make money on our site by advertisements and by those of you who go and click on Amazon affiliate links for us. That's how we make our money. And if these AI assistants are just scraping the content from these sites, displaying it in the game, then we don't make anything off of that. It's kind of like stealing the content that we've produced. Now, in some cases, it looks like the on-screen assistant will link to the articles, and you could click that link and go to that website, and then you are at least viewing ads and things like that. But how often are you going to do that? Like, if this assistant is doing a really good job, probably not very often at all, because it's just going to tell you exactly what you needed to know. So very mixed feelings about this functionality. And this is really just a bigger concern with the impact that AI has on so many business models. I use AI in certain ways most days, probably every day, but it does have some pretty major consequences for a lot of the ways things are done on the internet. And you got to remember, if the people who are producing this content are no longer making any money off of it, they won't produce the content anymore. So this is not the end of this story. NVIDIA's G-Assist will be available soon. And like I already said, Microsoft has this functionality that they're building for Copilot in Windows. And I'm sure other platforms will do this sort of thing too. So we're just going to have to figure this all out together. But I think it could be a rough road for a little while we figure out how to do this in a way that benefits everybody. Okay, well, that's it for the news this week. Let's get into what's going on in my entertainment center. Not much. Remember how I said I was traveling last week? Well, that means that I wasn't at home enjoying my entertainment center. So basically no TV. I probably watched some hockey in the last week. I did play a little bit of Final Fantasy VII Remake, made it a little bit further in that. But I do want to talk a little bit about where I was, because it is entertainment related. I went to a music festival for the first time in my life. Jen and I went to a festival. It was called Railbird Festival in Lexington, Kentucky. This is a pretty big festival. I think there were 40,000 people at this festival. It was amazing. If you are into kind of like indie folk rock and, a little bit of country, a little bit of bluegrass, folk, that sort of stuff, Railbird Festival, probably one that you should check out next year. If you're interested in like who are the bands that are playing this, well, the headliners were Noah Kahan, Chris Stapleton, Hozier, Turnpike Troubadours, but also some older bands in there. The Counting Crows were there, Winona was there. Kind of an interesting mix of bands, and it was a really, really well done festival. It's not the cheapest by any means, but it was really well done, very well organized, really, really great experience. One that we might have to go back to in the future, of course, depending on which artists are playing, but it was really, really good. So if you're into that kind of music, check out Railbird next year and maybe we will see you there. All right, so I talked about games, didn't really watch much TV. I am reading a new book, as I've talked about in the past. One of my wife's favorite book series is the A Court of Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J. Maas. I have started book 3 in that series. It is called A Court of Wings and Ruin. I am close to halfway through it. It's another good one. I mean, it's definitely better than the first one. I've talked at length about how much I thought that the first book was kind of meh. And yeah, I don't need to go into that again. Court of Wings and Ruin, definitely better than the first one. Picking up where book 2 left off. If you're into epic fantasy, I think you'll probably like this series. Okay, so how can you get a hold of us? Well, you can find us on YouTube. Hopefully, if you're watching on YouTube, you have liked the video, you have subscribed to the channel. You should definitely do that. And then you can also find me on Twitter. I'm at Josh Pollard, and the website is at DigiMediaZone. Richard is over on Mastodon. He is at Richard Gunther. He also has another show. It's called Home On, where he talks about smart home technology from the DIY perspective, and there will be a new episode soon. So check that out in the feeds soon. And when we're both around, we're trying to do the show more regularly live streaming on Twitch. So that'll typically be Tuesday nights around 8:30 p.m. Eastern. But follow us on social to know when that is happening, because we typically tweet about it ahead of time. But that's going to do it for episode 649. I'm Josh Pollard. Thanks for listening to Entertainment 2.0. Adios.